So this is the attraction matrix from Blue Valentine. Uh, yeah, again, great honest movie, great depiction of chemistry and relationships and the complexities of modernity, right? So what we have here is she's pulled in several different ways. It's partially because of just his lacking of every element, partially because of her expectations, partially because of her exposures to other chemistry and men. So let's explore, why this is the case, right? So she has her husband, which is, he's a affable guy, very likable, very emotionally intelligent, great to her daughter. The problem is, there's just a lack of motivation and there's a lack of assertiveness. So, even though he is actually providing the provider aspect, there's a consistency, there's a history there. I think they're like 5 years into the relationship. He's still doesn't have that forward momentum, doesn't have that dominance, so it's not a complete pull, and she's pulling back, right? So she's pulling back for like the first half of the whole damn movie. She's pulling back, and he's trying to like run after her, but you can see her interactions with other men are what expose the lack in himself, right? So right now there is an attraction to the provider and protector are like almost paradoxical, right? Because the best men at protecting are not necessarily the best providers. The best providers are not necessarily the best protectors. So the big emotional disruption is the Chad X from the past, which is the real baby daddy ultimately. But she had better chemistry with the nice guy at the time. He's still around, he's still in the same, and she still remembers him, right? She remembers this interaction. She remembers it was a different kind of attraction, but at the time she was more attracted to the nice guy. He was the one stepping up, so to speak, wifing her up when she's immediately pregnant. Okay. So she rejected him, accepted him. Now she's looking back and, okay, maybe this was the better relationship. The problem with these guys is a lot of times they have more options and you have more abandonment risk. So it's higher attraction, higher abandonment risk. That's a negative. And this is what you have to factor in, really, and you just have to be aware of it. And because women can be attracted to men that have other options, etc. It's attractive, but it's not as sustainable as far as commitment goes. And if that's what your goal is, that's what you're after. Now, because she's providing for herself, there's not as much dependent upon this guy. You have the other contrast, which is status attraction, right? So he's a painter, he's a doctor. They're both competing for her attention. There's attraction there because of the status, right? You have the doctor, he's taller, etc. Maybe 10 years older than her, 10 years older than her. Okay. So that there's the age attraction there. There's a structure. Well, this is more of a raw, visceral, animalistic aspect of attraction. This is another component. So she really wants is like all three of these guys combined. And it's hard to say who's at fault specifically, or if we're to have fault, because realistically, like, Gosling in this situation needs to be thinking about his animal masculine, which is part of himself, which is repressed. He needs to think about his societal stratification as well, and be moving up towards that. Because his focus is exclusively on her. He needs to focus on his muscles and his frame, right? This is money and muscles, This is game, and this is frame. So ideally, she wants like all three, and this is why she's just like stuck, right? She has history. There is provider attraction. There's low risk of there's low abandonment risk, but she doesn't feel protected. She doesn't feel as provided for. So you have this contrast, and the thinking is, what can be done differently? Yeah, expectations, bring them into a reasonable, attainable framework, and have a forward projection as far as he goes. Take your focus off her exclusively making her happy as mommy, and achieve these elements. And even if he can't become a doctor or a tactical alpha, whatever he is, you're moving towards that direction. She should see that, accept that, etc. The risk of shifting, I mean, there is a risk, right? So these guys keep caroms, right? These guys are low commitment guys, so they have like a stability there. You got more commitment out of these guys. These are the higher achieving betas, so to speak. And so now you're coming into your own. There's abandonment risk here too. He may be giving her offers, and this is the problem, because like women will project their own, like if they have sex with somebody, they assume that there's a commitment part of that. Like we're as addicted to sex as they are to attention, so you have to approximate, like just because we're giving these sex offers doesn't mean it's a commitment offer. And this is the risk for her. I mean, she's 28, which is a lower, kind of like a last step of fertility, really. I mean, like you have sexual power you don't have as much sexual power as you had 5 years previously at 28. So she could jump to a new relationship. It is higher. It's like a 70% failure rate the second marriage. So, what can happen is she gets with him. Same chemistry problems. Even though there's different levels of attraction as far as status goes, this doctor is not as charismatic and fun as him. Not playful. Not as masculine as this guy. So you have a turn off there. She can get bored and leave, really. Or, again, he has other options at this age with that level of status. Maybe he just pumps and dumps. So he wants to, relive the 20s that this guy was living, right? This guy as well, again, factor in, you're 28, he's, 30s, whatever, early 30s. He has other options as well. There's high abandonment risk here from his side. Or, again, multiple relationships who she could just be a side chick. Because, he has other options too. So you cannot exit these things. So, again, she's 28, she's moving in. She probably thinks she has the same kind of power that she had in her early 20s. Who's to say? I don't think that's a bad move for him to necessarily wife her up, but he should really have had his own kid with her, is what I would say. Because subconsciously, this is animal nature. The betas of a tribe will raise another man's tribe. He actually got his ass kicked by this guy. Right? He's raising his child. And she's subconsciously she looks down on it. Even though it's a practical he practiced swooped in and saved her. She kind of looks down on him because of it. And because of a lot of different things, right? Because he's exclusively pursuing her. She is his mission. She looks at him, looks down at him, and probably should have a kid with him, honestly. Earlier. He's like, he was like caught off guard by female nature, and which is common, right? Because like, it's him projecting as well, right? He's assuming that because all we want is loyalty, that's what all she wants. So I'm gonna be loyal to you. Obviously, you're gonna be loyal to me, and that's the end of it, right? That's all. The complexity of female attraction and her genetic history was not factored in as far as how you approach things. And you're waiting too long. Like, he should have had another kid with her immediately, right? Would be my prescription for that situation. In addition to moving towards these energies and these elements. Because if he did, he couldn't compete with him. He couldn't compete with them. But basically, he's kind of laying around drinking beers and painting houses, playing with the kid that isn't his. It's not attractive. But in his mind, he's doing fine. Like, hey, I bailed you out. I was there for you, etc. You owe me. It's not a practical, logical exchange, right? Like, she's looking at her feelings, and feelings is primary. And at the end of the day, he's only one part of a whole. So, I mean, they both could have done better. It's fascinating. It's a completely raw, honest exchange. Great movie.